of course, organization and teams are still trying to play the odds. It's not like they're not, but those odds have shifted, and I just think it's more valuable to develop the guy you have. He's so much fun. And Brian, I am glad you mentioned Chris Finch too. Here's a guy who got his job in a way that upset a lot of people around the league, and I think probably the Timberwolves would do things differently if they could do them over. That doesn't mean he's not a good coach, and he has been able to show with this team, he is a good coach, why Gerson Rosas wanted him, and what he can do if given a full season. I'm looking forward to seeing it next year. All right, let's move over to the Nets because James Harden spoke to the media today. This is the first time he's talked publicly since his hamstring setback. He said he is, quote, very confident he will return before the end of the regular season. Here's more from James.
For me, at this point in my career, I think, going into postseasons, basically since I've, been in Houston and whatnot, I've been playing heavy minutes, whatever, just carrying the load. And this is an opportunity for me to get my body right going into the postseason with a clear mind and a clear body of, all right, you got 16 games to win. And that's the ultimate goal. That's, the reason why, I came to Brooklyn.
Brian Harden also said they don't have to worry about the skill part of the equation. You heard that at the top of the show. So do you agree health is the only thing that can keep the Nets from winning a title this season?
Well, it's really important, obviously, because it's been something that they haven't been able to achieve almost all season. But to me, it's still going to come down to if they can put some defense together, because this is just an absolutely vicious offensive team. I've never seen a team like this offensively. But I think we just saw in their last two games against the Bucks, which right now looks like it could be a second-round opponent, they were not able to slow Giannis at all. And also Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday gave them problems. And so, I know that in the regular season, this year in the NBA especially, it's just been, I am going to outscore you. But historically, the playoffs, you have to play some level of defense. And the Nets are better on defense than a lot of people, including me, thought they would be when they put this team together. But the cohesion that they've lacked in playing and getting reps together to get some defensive chemistry, I think, is going to come right down to it along with health, because at some point, I promise you, they're going to have to get a few stops to win a big playoff game.
Absolutely. Health is number one to me. And I think if you're healthy, then you can kind of fix those things. I mean, you have veteran guys. It's not like you're waiting for a bunch of young guys with inexperience in the playoffs to teach them defense. Yes, you want them to play team defense. Maybe not individual defense will come about, but team defense. But if your guys aren't healthy, you might not get that maximum effort on the defensive end. Because we know you offensively, you're always going to give maximum effort. That's just the way it works. But defensively is what you want. So if these guys are healthy, you can kind of go to these veterans and say, hey, you want those 16 games that you just said? It only takes 16. Like you said, Brian, you're going to have to get a stop.
And look, we've looked over 6 months. That's our sample so far with this Nets team. I guess a little bit less since James wasn't there right at the beginning of the season. They've only had 6.5 games where their players have all been out on the court together. Now, for the 2.5 months of the playoffs, is that going to change? Are we going to get all three for a consistent period of time? That, to me, is the only question. And whether it falls this way or that way on whether their guys are healthy would make a huge difference in what I would predict for them going forward. But we'll just have to see. That is, in a lot of cases, luck. All right, coming up, guys, we're going to discuss a basketball fan, but his confidence has to be pretty near the top of the list. Remember back to draft night a couple of years ago when it felt like the entire planet was focused on Zion Williamson, labeling him the most intriguing draft pick since LeBron James? Well, it was Ja who declared he thought he could be Rookie of the Year. And then he went out and did it. Ja is also the guy who in his first season trash-talked James Harden, got into a social media argument with Steph Curry. Basically, the dude has no fear. So it was hardly a surprise earlier this week when on a TNT broadcast, Shaquille O'Neal asked Ja where he would rank himself among the league's point guards. A category that includes Steph, Dame Lillard, Luka Doncic, Chris Paul, James Harden, among others. And Ja answered, quote, top 5 for sure. And by the way, it's one thing for him to say that at all in just his second year in the league. It's another when you consider he said it coming off the Grizzlies' loss to the Knicks, a game in which Ja scored a grand total of 8 points on 2 for 14 shooting. Honestly, if it was any other player, I think those comments would have drawn a full-scale internet roasting. But with Ja, all anyone wanted to do was see him go try to back his words up. And boy, did he stake his claim at that last night. In a game against Minnesota that was so fun, no one would have complained if it had gone 5 quarters. Morant and rookie Anthony Edwards went back and forth. They went back. Oh, yeah. And forth. And back again. Yeah, gonna just get that in there. Edwards would end up with a career-tying 42 points in this game, but even more impressive was how he scored. Just ridiculous efficiency, going 17 for 22 from the floor, 8 of 9 from 3. He also added 7 assists, 6 rebounds, which put him on a list with KD and LeBron as the only teenagers to ever notch at least 45 and 5 in an NBA game. You know, it's been so fun watching Edwards since the All-Star break. Even his injuries and some internal turmoil have cracked this Wolves season. Edwards has shown a tremendous learning curve and a toughness you just can't teach. He leads all rookies in scoring, and with each passing game has shown more and more confidence. Last night, after the Wolves fell into a 13-point hole, it was Edwards who sparked them in the third quarter. It was extremely impressive. Although, guess who was also plenty confident on the other side? Yeah, again, Ja Morant, who last night just kept going. He nailed 2 step backs in the final 3 minutes. He then assisted on Desmond Bane's dagger. The Memphis win moved the Grizzlies up to 8th in the West, a spot that, if it sticks, would give them advantageous positioning in the play-in tournament. And Ja himself had 37 points, 10 assists, and an answer to anyone who had mocked his bravado in that interview with Shaq. So is Ja Morant a top 5 point guard in the NBA? Not by most people's measure, but it's hard not to love that he thinks he is. I do want to switch gears, guys, back to Anthony Edwards, who has been, as I mentioned, just on an absolute tear since the break. Now, LaMelo Ball has appeared to be in the pole position for the Rookie of the Year award, even though he missed a chunk of time this season. But I got to ask, the 1998-1999 Rookie of the Year, Vince Carter, is Edwards closing the gap on LaMelo here?
He absolutely is closing the gap right now. He's playing great basketball. And I said some months ago, I said, yes, LaMelo Ball at that time was the Rookie of the Year, leading in the Rookie of the Year voting. But if Edwards continued to play the basketball that he's playing, he's going to make people think a little harder about that award. And he's doing that right now, playing great basketball. And like you said, he's extremely confident. He knows what he wants to do, and he knows what he can do on the floor. And it's not just dunking the ball anymore. 8 from 9 from 3. Yeah, he's confident.
So I would go so far as to say that was one of the greatest shooting performances I've ever seen last night. He scored 42 points without making a free throw. That is just an unheard of number, even for a veteran, much less a rookie who at times this year has struggled shooting the ball. So he's been extraordinarily impressive. Now, the big thing in LaMelo's side on this, and probably why I'm going to vote for him for Rookie of the Year, is that he impacted winning from day one. One of the rarest things a rookie can do is impact winning, and that's why LaMelo is probably getting this. And if you look at the lines in the sports books, it's like -700 or 800 for LaMelo, even now, even after this game last night, and that's because it's going to be this way. But his second half, forget about the award. His second half is really getting the Wolves fans excited, and they have elected to keep playing. And I commend them in a way, although I have to say, it's fascinating what's happened here. You know, they've won 6 of their last 10 games. Part of it's because they're healthy. Part of it's because he's playing so well. Part of it's because their new coach, Chris Finch, has made some moves that have really got them going. But they went from being sort of comfortably in the top 3 to now they're only a game out of 6th overall. Now, you may say, well, what does that really matter ultimately? Well, for them, if they end up with a top 3 pick, they keep their pick.
I was going to say, I want to clarify
when you said
they were in the top
give it
3
away.
versus 6 overall. You're talking about the draft lottery. You're not talking about the standings.
Naturally, Rachel, but thank you for clarifying. So right now, as we sit here right now, they have a 42% chance of keeping their pick. But as you saw how tight those were, if they win even 2 more games, they could drop all the way down to 30%. And again, that's 42%, get a top 3 pick in this draft that's loaded, add another piece to this team, and potentially hit the ground running next year, or don't get your pick at all. So this has been great, but it's really fascinating in those standings now.
Yeah, and look, that pick would convey to Golden State if it does convey, and that is part of the the Wiggins and D'Angelo Russell deal. Vince, what do you think if you're on this team and you see this kid developing the way he is, again, sticking his nose in there possibly for Rookie of the Year and just getting his confidence, really becoming the kind of player they want him to be? Do you as an organization try to kind of slow that roll a little bit so you can keep your draft pick, or you just say, young man, go?
Being a veteran and a player in the locker room, when you have a lot of young guys coming in, I get concerned when you do that because you see where Edwards is trending right now, and that's upwards. He's playing great basketball. You don't want to scale him back. You want him to continue to gain his confidence so next year he hits the ground running. Yes, I know you want that spot, but let's say you, for some reason, scale him back and things don't work out next year. You want this team, this Wolves team, to come and play great basketball immediately next year, and they can do that by continuing to play. Yeah, in their mind, they might not make the playoffs, but why not set goals like, hey, let's get to this point. Let's play this style of basketball. This is how we want to play next year. Let's give them a sample size of who we can be next year from the beginning. So, it's a slippery slope, and I understand the organization side, but I just feel like you have to be careful when you have so many young guys on your roster and you're trying to find a free agent that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, bird in hand, right? I mean, this is a prospect you have. This is a great elite talent that you have. Let's work on developing him. I host the draft lottery every year. I can tell you, since they changed and flattened the lottery odds, there is a surprise all the time, every single year. So you can't just guarantee if we finish here, we're going to get this pick.